from IPET ISUT Cosmos, IMBIZO East, West, North and South. We would like to utilize their resources today to look into the 4 mental steps that will transform your life. 1. Set your goals. 2. Create a routine. Hold yourself accountable and track your progress. We would like also to establish the problems, how they are created, best optional scenario, finding the solution, implement day-to-day actions till death. Set your goals and master all mental problems, because you have to know the 9 signs of mental illness. What are the symptoms of mental illness? If a friend or a loved one or the whole racial group seems to be in a bad mood or in a more serious psychological, sociological state, you have to know how their feelings, whether at a racial level as well as at individual level, whether emotional outbursts, whether there are problems with their sleeping patterns, whether there is a lot of obesity, a lot of weight, whether they are quiet as a race and withdrawn, whether they are into substance abuse, welfare and drug abuse, whether they feel guilt or worthless, whether they are chubby or feelings. You must grasp current affairs and the trends to contextualize social problems. The whole world is under siege today, worldwide. There are issues of health that challenges everyone. The severe post-COVID pandemic trauma, man-made wars and wars, Russia, Ukraine, the nuclear threat that hangs over humanity, and the debt crisis, racism, transhumanistic activities, and the agenda by men to make each human being on earth subservient to a certain rule and regulation, and hunger, and just severe suffering. How did these problems begin? Who creates these problems? We know there is a human face, but obviously and honestly there is a non-human entity that took over our civilization, and uses other human beings to create a new reality as the agenda, propagandize this new reality using the media, to enforce this new reality via the governments and the laws they put in place, and also to force massive mass psychosis. I know that a lot of psychologists have dismissed this, but we want to look at the behavior and the events that brought us on mass hysteria perpetrated by the political, economic, socio-cultural and technological maneuvers done by elites. This mass formation psychosis is due to the large part of society which focuses its attention to leaders and obey these leaders even in nonsensical suggestions or commands. The followers are hypnotized, worship these leaders, and they are led anyway regardless of the data proving otherwise. So the first step that we want to share after setting your goals is to resist mass psychosis. How do you do that? By pinpointing how these problems have started or were started or began, and how this allows the formation of the mass psychosis that is all over the world. So you have to create a routine through personal study and application of the best solutions and option that you can have. The biggest battle includes rescuing your thoughts and your thought process and reignite dominant identity ideas and uproot those ideas that have been planted by the political, economic, socio-cultural and technological maneuvers. You have to have a viable personal construct full of mental health and full of an Afrocentric and psychological and behavioral functioning that is in accord with the basic nature of the original human nature and its attendant cosmology and cultural deep thought and survival thrust. This was stated by Dr. Azibo in his nosology construct. Also, Dr. Amos Wilson said African identity is a threat to European dominance. The license to name the world, to categorize, classify, or otherwise demarcate the world and behavior on the part of whites must be revoked. If it can't be done at national level, you must do it in your brain. Because if you do not do that, Africans will fail to assert their right and power of self-definition, of categorizing and classifying the world and the nature of their being in it in ways which make their minds and the bodies humanitarian instruments of African power and liberation. This is a vital aspect of what we need to know to solve our mental health challenges through history as well as our identity, which will lead us in finding the solution to our issue. Some steps to transform your life and to be transformed daily and resolve any problems or challenges. You must know the cause of mass psychosis, erroneous psychological paradigms that distort your identity. Dr. Azibo states that psychological misorientation derives from de-Africanizing caused by the superimposition of Eurasian civilization on melanin-dominant people. When this happens, Eurasian cultural forms and definitions are continually promulgated and reinforced, while simultaneously enforced is debasing and the relegation to marginalia of standard African cultural dictates. The steps that are very important in solving our problems and in arousing in us our understanding is that we must know issues of compulsiveness or immediate gratification and stem them and control them. We must also know about low personal self-esteem and or personal self-hatred. I, me, referent. Anyone who engages in skin bleaching has low personal self-esteem. He is no longer or she is no longer a natural melanin dominant human being. Their sense of personal humiliation is too deep. Their feelings of inferiority too deep. They are a fragile, split or otherwise inadequate functioning self. You can also read Dr. Welsing's 1981 concept of interiorization and Wilson's 1982 alienated self-concept. You must know that there is a system that extends self-hatred and disparagement of the extended self. We as the referent. So your race referent is no longer melanin dominant, is now European or Asian or Chinese or anything. You caricature or overdoing those characteristics associated with Eurasian cultures. So you celebrate Christmas, Halloween, all these Independence Day, the flags and stuff like that, more than the Europeans themselves. So your anger and aggression is clear. You have to overcome inferiority complex and you have to fight and restore your personal or extended self-identity. Finding the solutions by pinpointing where the problem resides. All of our problems can be attributed to this systematic theft of our African personality brought about by the conscious destruction of our culture by both our Arab and European enemies. The results of their cultural imperialism has been devastating as we stumble around leaving race-first logic behind. This was said by Dale Jones, 1986. So anyone who is a melanin dominant human being and then follows Christianity, Islam, Judaism is a sellout. It doesn't matter how eloquent he says or she speaks. They are suffering from low self-esteem and it will be a problem, not a solution to our cause. There are some steps that you can take day to day to restore your life again. You must be a person who knows that race first is a permanent ideology. Melanin dominant culture, speech and songs must dominate in your life. Melanin dominant skin pigmentation must be sustained. Melanin dominant love of nature. Melanin dominant use of picture, language and sound, tone or frequency. Melanin dominant use of observation of nature. Melanin dominant oral history recitation. Melanin dominant practice of concept of Maati. Melanin dominant concept of the African community. Melanin dominant people concept of male and female balance. Melanin dominant concept of the sin and sin realm. Melanin dominant people concept of no religion or church or faith but only our own spirituality. Melanin dominant people concept of health and herbs. Nothing else, no Quran, no Bible, no Torah. The ancient enlightened Kemetic teachers could not and did not separate physical health from spiritual health. So this is coming from Health is a Lifestyle, Not a Medicine, by Amandine Siita. Health is a Lifestyle, Not a Medicine. You can see clearly the Kemetic diet, the virtues, the food for mind, purity, self-knowledge, food for the soul, which is deeper than meditation, and food for your body, which is based on alkaline diet. So how do we then work around our issues? We know that we have to define what is the problem. We have to analyze why this is occurring, the problem, and we have to implement steps to restore and solve the problem, and then evaluate that the problem has been solved. So the biggest problem, what is our problem, is loss of our melanin dominant identity, which is causing racial failure in politics, economics, social cohesion, and technological advancement. And once we have failed in this state, we straightforward fall under black mass psychosis. We have mental health issues, and we are operating at a qualitatively lower level, and our identity and our race-first ideology is gone. We are in waves that do not help us. So how do we evaluate our situation? We have to answer on a daily basis the following question: what are the dominant ideas I had today, this week, this month, this day, and in my life? I have to give examples and answers that are based on your religion, education, media, government, families, and hospitals, whether you are obeying these things to the letter and not resisting them. That's how you can evaluate. So Dr. Azibo gave us a system known as nosology, which is a diagnostic system of mental disorders directly linked to African-centered personality theory. Know the divinities. What are they? Accept your racial identity. Accept that you're an African descendant person or melanin dominant human being. We need mental maturity, since it relates to our ability to think in more complex and agile ways. We need mental health, which is a key ability at this level, and then be able to invite out of the box ability to look at our frameworks, paradigms, and mental lenses rather than so-called official narratives. So the out of box system implies that we invite non-human help, because we are fighting with non-human forces, evil influence that we know is ruining the earth. So we look at many divinities. For instance, we look at Khepri, he who is coming into being. So that's your work. To Khepera, who is the morning sun, who is the day reborn, O Lord of transformation, in whom all things may yet arise, I pray to you. So you do that. And you know that the rebirth system from your very inner being will give you your life, and will find your footing. And the scarab gives you rebirth, gives you life, and connects you with the powers across the whole ranges of other patron deities. It's clear from this image that Khepri works that way. So in summary, what are some steps that transforms your life? 1, know what happened to us. 2, re-identify yourself as a melanin dominant human beings by practice and by culture, not a theory only. Implement self-cultural reform in your personal life. So for instance, if you had a white wedding, destroy that white wedding. If you have got a European name, destroy that European name by adopting an African secondary name. Think clearly daily and walk with divinities in Mahati. The body becomes what the foods are. So eat well. The spirit becomes what the thoughts are. Think clearly. The kingdom of heaven is within you. All dimensions are within you. Whosoever shall know himself shall find it. Khepri, transform now my life tonight. This is what you should say. Remember, we are in the womb, in the earth. Even though the soul, the you, is in you, maturing or an old soul, it must grow. If it is new, it must age gracefully. If it is a mature soul, it has a lot of work, like an grand old parent. If you are an old soul, it must share wisdom. Khepri is rolling the ball of dirty It's you, the symbol of your soul in matter, filled with the potential in direct display of Ra, the energy to give birth out of the power that is in and around you. Therefore, keep your goals and keep your focus focused. The challenges we face are there to perfect us into eternal life or eternal damnation. Share and subscribe. Connect with us on join@marfado.com. Also connect on our app, connect@marfado.com. Tatenda, Siabonga, Henkos, Asante Sana. This is Hamaneja Topi, Prestige Rabbi, LM Mizulu, saying we are rebuilding our greatness. Amen.